The chandelier above the grand ballroom scattered light like diamonds across the polished marble floor. Jade Harper pressed herself against the silk curtain near the balcony doors, clutching a glass of champagne she had no intention of drinking. She did not belong here among the jewels and designer gowns, among people who spoke in numbers with too many zeros to count. Her best friend Sierra had dragged her to this charity gala with promises of free food and a chance to see how the other half lived. Now Jade regretted every step that brought her through those golden doors. Sierra appeared beside her with eyes glowing with mischief and alcohol. She grabbed Jade's arm with fingers that felt too warm against her skin. A wicked smile spread across Sierra's face as she leaned in close enough for Jade to smell the wine on her breath. She pointed across the room toward the bar where a man stood alone despite the crowd pressing close on all sides. Even from this distance, Jade could see the sharp lines of his suit and the way people seemed to orbit around him without ever getting too close. Sierra's voice came out in a breathless whisper. "That is Dominic Blake, the youngest billionaire in the city, owner of half the buildings downtown, and according to every magazine in existence, completely untouchable." She squeezed Jade's arm tighter. "I will give you $300 if you walk over there and kiss him. Just a quick one, then disappear into the crowd before he even knows what happened." Jade's heart kicked against her ribs like a trapped bird. The champagne had made her head feel light and her judgment feel distant. $300 meant groceries for a month, meant she could stop choosing between eating and paying for art supplies, meant one less night lying awake worrying about money. She looked at Sierra, then at the man across the room, then back at her friend's challenging grin. The word left her mouth before her brain could stop it. "Fine." She moved through the crowd on legs that felt borrowed from someone braver. Her black dress, borrowed from Sierra's closet, whispered against her thighs with each step. The music swelled around her, violin strings pulling tight like the anxiety in her chest. She weaved between clusters of people who smelled expensive, past waiters carrying trays of food she could not pronounce, toward the man who stood like a statue carved from ice and ambition. Dominic Blake held a glass of whiskey in one hand, his other tucked into the pocket of his tailored pants. His profile showed a strong jaw and dark hair styled with casual perfection. Everything about him screamed power and control, from his straight shoulders to the way he scanned the room with eyes that missed nothing. Jade's courage nearly failed her 3 steps away, but the thought of Sierra's money and her own empty wallet pushed her forward. She reached him just as he turned. His eyes met hers, deep brown and sharp as glass. For one frozen moment, Jade saw surprise flicker across his face, a crack in the mask of indifference he wore like armor. She did not give herself time to think. She rose onto her toes, placed one hand on his chest where she could feel his heartbeat through the expensive fabric, and pressed her lips to his. The kiss lasted exactly 2 seconds. 2 seconds where the world stopped spinning and the music faded and all Jade could feel was warmth and the subtle scent of his cologne and the absolute stillness of his body beneath her touch. She pulled back fast, her face burning hot enough to light the entire ballroom. Her mouth opened to say something, anything, but no words came out. Dominic's hand moved faster than thought. His fingers wrapped around her wrist, gentle but firm, stopping her before she could take even one step away. His voice came low and smooth like honey poured over gravel. "Where do you think you are going?" Jade's breath caught in her throat. She forced herself to look up into his face and found him staring at her with an expression she could not read. Not anger like she expected, not disgust, but something intense and focused that made her skin prickle with awareness. She swallowed hard and tried to pull her hand free, but his grip held steady without hurting. "It was a dare," she said quickly, the words tumbling over each other. "Just a stupid dare for money. I am sorry if I offended you. I will leave now." Dominic's eyebrow lifted slightly. "A dare," he repeated slowly, as if tasting each letter. "You kissed me for money." His lips curved into the smallest hint of a smile, barely there but enough to transform his entire face from cold marble into something almost human. "And how much was I worth?" $300, Jade admitted, then immediately wished she could take it back. That sounds worse out loud. The smile grew a fraction wider. Only 300? I am insulted. His thumb brushed across the inside of her wrist where her pulse hammered like thunder. Most people would not dare touch me at all. Yet you walked up and kissed me like it meant nothing. Jade's mind raced for an escape route, but his eyes held her pinned more effectively than his hand. I really should go, she tried again, pulling gently against his grip. This was a mistake. Dominic studied her face with an intensity that made her feel transparent. He took in her flushed cheeks, her borrowed dress with its slightly loose shoulder strap, her scuffed heels that had seen better years. His gaze held no judgment, only curiosity mixed with something warmer that made her stomach flip. What is your name? Jade, she said before she could stop herself. Jade Harper. Jade, he repeated, and somehow her name sounded different in his voice, important. His hand released her wrist slowly, his fingers trailing across her skin in a way that sent shivers up her arm. I am Dominic, though I suspect you already knew that. She nodded, too nervous to speak. The crowd around them seemed to press closer, watching this strange interaction between the untouchable billionaire and the unknown girl in the cheap dress. Jade could feel their eyes burning into her back, could imagine the whispers already starting to spread through the room like wildfire. Dominic stepped closer, close enough that she had to tilt her head back to maintain eye contact. His voice dropped lower, intimate despite the crowd. You have made this evening interesting, Jade Harper. No one has surprised me in a very long time. He paused, his eyes searching her face. May I take you to dinner tomorrow? The question hit her like cold water. No, she said automatically, taking a step back. I cannot. I do not date men like you. Men like me, he echoed, amusement coloring his tone. And what kind of man am I? The kind who lives in a different universe, Jade said honestly. The kind who probably has assistants to schedule his breathing. I work 2 jobs to pay for school. I eat ramen for dinner most nights. We have nothing in common. Dominic regarded her silently for a long moment. Then he reached into his jacket and pulled out a business card, pressing it into her hand before she could refuse. My private number is on the back. When you change your mind, call me. I will not change my mind, Jade said, but she took the card anyway, her fingers closing around the thick paper. We will see, Dominic replied with quiet confidence. He stepped back, giving her space to breathe again. Run if you want, Jade Harper. But I am very good at finding people who interest me. And you, he paused, his eyes holding hers with magnetic force, you interest me very much. Jade turned and fled into the crowd before her knees could give out. She found Sierra near the dessert table and grabbed her arm hard enough to leave marks. We are leaving now. Sierra's eyes went wide. Did you actually do it? Did you kiss Dominic Blake? Jade pulled her toward the exit without answering. Behind them, she could feel Dominic's gaze following her across the ballroom, steady and patient as a hunter who knew his prey would eventually stop running. The business card in her hand felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds, like a key to a door she was terrified to open. Outside in the cool night air, Jade finally let herself breathe. Sierra demanded details, but Jade could not form words yet. Her lips still tingled from that brief contact. Her wrist still felt warm where his fingers had held her. And deep in her chest, something had shifted, like the first crack in ice before spring, like the beginning of something she could not name and did not want to feel. She looked at the business card under the streetlight. Simple black letters on cream paper with a phone number written in confident handwriting on the back. She should throw it away, should forget this entire night, should go back to her small apartment and her quiet life where billionaires did not exist and kisses were not currency and hearts did not race at the memory of brown eyes that saw too much. But instead, she tucked the card carefully into her purse, telling herself she would throw it away tomorrow. Knowing even as she thought it that tomorrow would come and the card would still be there, waiting like a promise or a threat or maybe both at once. The morning after the gala, Jade woke with a headache that had nothing to do with champagne and everything to do with the memory of dark eyes and a voice that seemed to echo in her dreams. She pulled herself out of bed and went through her usual routine, telling herself that last night was just a strange moment, a brief intersection between two worlds that would never touch again. She was wrong. The first sign came at noon when she arrived at the art gallery where she worked part-time. Her boss handed her a large bouquet of white roses with a card that simply said, "Thinking of you," in that same confident handwriting from the business card. No signature, but Jade did not need one. Her hands shook as she set the flowers aside, trying to ignore the way her heart stumbled over itself. Sierra called during her lunch break, her voice high with excitement. "Girl, you are all over the society blogs. Someone caught a photo of you and Dominic Blake at the gala. They are calling you the mystery woman who captured the Ice King's attention. This is insane." Jade felt her stomach drop. "Take it down," she pleaded. "Tell them it was nothing, just a stupid dare." But Sierra laughed. "Babe, you cannot undo this. Besides, why would you want to? He is gorgeous and rich and apparently obsessed with you. Do you know how many women would kill to be in your position?" "Because it is not real," Jade said quietly. "He does not know me. He just likes the challenge of someone who said no. Once he gets bored, he will move on to the next shiny thing." She hung up before Sierra could argue further. But the flowers sat on the counter all afternoon, their sweet scent filling the small gallery, impossible to ignore. By the time her shift ended, Jade had convinced herself to throw them away. She made it halfway to the trash bin before her hands refused to cooperate. Instead, she carried them home on the bus, holding them carefully so the petals would not bruise. The next morning brought a coffee delivery to her apartment. Not just any coffee, but her exact order from the cafe 3 blocks away, the one she treated herself to once a month when she had extra money. Caramel latte with oat milk and an extra shot of espresso. The delivery person said it was already paid for, along with breakfast pastries still warm from the oven. Jade stood in her doorway holding the bag, fighting the urge to cry because someone had noticed what she liked, had cared enough to remember. On the third day, Jade arrived at her second job tutoring students in art history to find that her oldest laptop, the one that crashed every 20 minutes and made ominous grinding sounds, had been replaced. Her supervisor explained that an anonymous donor had heard about the tutoring program and wanted to provide better equipment for the instructors. But when Jade opened the sleek new laptop, she found a small note tucked under the keyboard. "So you can focus on teaching instead of fighting with technology." She knew she should be angry about the intrusion into her life, about the money being spent on her without permission. But sitting in the quiet tutoring room with that note in her hand, all she felt was something dangerously close to warmth spreading through her chest. A week passed with no contact beyond these silent gestures. No phone calls, no surprise visits, just a steady stream of small kindnesses that showed he was paying attention. Her favorite book appeared on her doorstep, a first edition she had mentioned wanting in passing to Sierra months ago. Her ancient winter coat, the one held together with safety pins and hope, was replaced by one that actually kept out the cold, left hanging on her apartment doorknob with no card attached. Jade found herself thinking about him at odd moments. While shelving books at the gallery, while making dinner in her tiny kitchen, while lying in bed at night staring at the ceiling. She wondered what he was doing, if he was thinking about her too, if this strange courtship through gifts and silence was as confusing for him as it felt for her. 2 weeks after the gala, Jade finally broke. She pulled out his business card, now worn soft from being carried in her pocket, and stared at the number until it blurred. Her fingers dialed before her brain could talk her out of it. The phone rang twice before his voice came through, smooth and unsurprised, as if he had been waiting for this exact moment. "Hello, Jade. How did you know it was me?" she asked, then felt stupid because of course he knew. "I have been waiting for your call," Dominic said simply. There was no smugness in his voice, no victory, just quiet honesty that made her throat tight. "How are you?" "Confused," she admitted. "You have been leaving things for me. The flowers and the coffee and the laptop." Why? Because you would not let me take you to dinner, he replied. So I found other ways to show you I was thinking about you. Did I overstep? If I made you uncomfortable, I will stop. Jade sat down on her bed, pressing one hand to her chest where her heart was doing complicated things. That is the problem, she said softly. You did not overstep. Everything you did was thoughtful and kind, and it scares me because I do not understand why you care. Dominic was quiet for a moment. When he spoke again, his voice held a vulnerability she had not heard before. Can I see you? Not for dinner if you are not ready. Just coffee. 30 minutes of your time so I can try to explain. She should say no. Every logical part of her brain screamed that getting involved with someone like Dominic Blake was asking for heartbreak. But the truth was she had already started falling, had been falling since that moment at the gala when he smiled at her like she was the only person in the room. Okay, she whispered. Coffee. They met the next afternoon at a small cafe far from downtown, far from his world of boardrooms and society pages. Jade arrived first, her hands twisted together in her lap as she waited. When Dominic walked through the door, he looked different than at the gala. Still handsome, still commanding attention without trying, but wearing jeans and a simple sweater that made him seem almost ordinary. Almost. He sat across from her and for a moment they just looked at each other. Up close, Jade could see tiny flecks of gold in his brown eyes, could see the faint shadows under them that spoke of sleepless nights. He looked tired but hopeful, like a man standing at the edge of something important. Thank you for meeting me, Dominic said, his hands wrapped around his own coffee cup. I know this must seem strange to you. I am not usually like this. Like what? Jade asked. Uncertain, he admitted with a small smile. When you kissed me at that gala, it was the first genuine moment I had experienced in years. Everyone in my world wants something from me. Money, connections, status. But you just wanted $300 for a dare, and then you tried to walk away. You had no idea who I was beyond a name, and you did not care. That was more valuable than anything money could buy. Jade wrapped her hands around her own cup, feeling the warmth seep into her fingers. I am not special, she said quietly. I am just a broke college student trying to survive. Dominic leaned forward, his eyes intense. You are wrong. You are special because you are real. You work 2 jobs and eat ramen and still find time to help kids learn about art. You carry flowers home on the bus because you cannot bear to waste something beautiful. You are scared of my world but you called anyway because you are brave. That is special, Jade. That is everything. Her eyes stung with unexpected tears. She blinked them back, looking down at her coffee. What do you want from me? Honestly? Dominic reached across the table, his hand palm up in invitation. I want to know you. I want to hear about your day and learn what makes you laugh. I want to be the person you call when something good happens. I want a chance to show you that not everyone in my world is cold and empty. His voice dropped softer. I want to see if this feeling I have, this warmth that showed up the moment you kissed me, is real. Jade stared at his hand, at the invitation it represented. This could go so wrong, she said. We are from completely different worlds. Or it could go right, he countered gently. We will not know unless we try. She thought about the past 2 weeks, about every small gesture that showed he saw her, really saw her. She thought about the way her heart had jumped when she heard his voice on the phone, about the way she found herself looking for him in every crowd even though she knew he would not be there. Maybe Sierra was right. Maybe sometimes you had to take the leap even when it scared you. Jade placed her hand in his, feeling his fingers close around hers with careful tenderness. Okay, she said, the word barely more than a breath. Let us try. Dominic's smile was like sunrise breaking over water, transforming his entire face. Thank you, he said simply. Then, softer, you will not regret this. They sat in that small cafe for 3 hours, talking until the light outside faded to dusk. Dominic told her about growing up with parents who cared more about business than people, about building his empire as a way to prove his worth, about the loneliness that came with success. Jade told him about her dreams of becoming a real artist, about her fear of never being good enough, about the way she sometimes felt invisible in a city full of people. When they finally left, Dominic walked her to the bus stop. Before she could step away, he pulled her into a hug that felt like coming home. His arms wrapped around her securely, his chin resting on top of her head. Jade let herself melt into the embrace, breathing in his scent, feeling his heartbeat steady against her cheek. "Can I see you again tomorrow?" he asked into her hair. "Yes," she answered, surprising herself with how much she meant it. That night, lying in bed, Jade realized she was smiling at the ceiling like a fool. The business card sat on her nightstand, no longer a source of anxiety but a promise. She did not know where this would lead, did not know if she could truly belong in his world or if he could understand hers. But for the first time in a long time, she felt hope glowing warm in her chest, felt the possibility of something beautiful beginning to bloom. The weeks that followed felt like living in a dream that Jade kept expecting to end. Dominic pursued her with the same intensity he brought to everything in his life, but tempered with a gentleness that made her heart ache. He showed up at the gallery between meetings just to steal 20 minutes with her. He learned her schedule and appeared with lunch on days when he knew she would forget to eat. He listened when she talked about art and ideas, his full attention focused on her as if nothing else in the world mattered. But dating Dominic Blake meant stepping into a spotlight Jade had never wanted. The society blogs that had called her a mystery woman now speculated endlessly about her background. Photographers waited outside her apartment and her jobs. Strangers felt entitled to opinions about her clothes, her appearance, whether she was good enough for a man like him. The attention felt suffocating, like being pressed under glass for the world to examine. One evening, 3 months into their relationship, Jade sat in Dominic's penthouse overlooking the city. She had been quiet all night, staring out at the lights below without really seeing them. Dominic sat beside her on the couch, close enough to touch but giving her space. "Talk to me," he said softly. "Tell me what is wrong." Jade drew her knees up to her chest. "I saw another article today. They found out about my mom's medical bills, about how I grew up in a trailer park. They are calling me a gold digger who trapped you. Some people are saying you are ruining your reputation by being with someone like me." Dominic's jaw tightened. What people say does not matter. But it does. Jade turned to face him, her eyes bright with unshed tears. "Your business partners look at me like I am dirt on their expensive shoes. Your mother told me last week that I should understand you need someone more appropriate. I see how hard you work to build your empire, and I hate that I might be the thing that tears it down." Dominic reached for her, pulling her into his lap despite her resistance. His arms wrapped around her tightly, one hand cradling the back of her head. "Listen to me," he said, his voice fierce. "You are not tearing anything down. You are the only thing holding me together. Before you, I was empty. I had money and power and absolutely nothing worth coming home to." Jade pressed her face into his shoulder, breathing him in. "But your family, your world, they will never accept me." "Then they can go to hell," Dominic said bluntly. "I spent 30 years trying to please people who did not care about me. I am not giving up the one person who makes me feel human just because she did not grow up with a trust fund." His hand stroked through her hair. "You are stronger than every person in that world combined. You survive on your own terms, you help others even when you have nothing, you create beauty out of pain. That is worth more than any amount of money." The tears Jade had been holding back finally spilled over. "What if I am not strong enough for this? What if the pressure breaks me?" Dominic pulled back just enough to cup her face in his hands, his thumbs wiping away her tears. "Then I will be strong for both of us. We will figure it out together. But I need you to promise me something." His eyes searched hers intently. "Do not run because you are scared. Fight with me, stay with me, trust that what we have is worth protecting." Jade nodded, unable to speak past the lump in her throat. Dominic kissed her then, soft and deep, pouring everything he could not say into the contact. When they finally broke apart, Jade felt steadier, as if his certainty had become an anchor she could hold on to. The real test came 2 weeks later at a gala Dominic's company was hosting. Every major player in the business world would be there, including his parents and the board members who had already expressed concerns about his relationship. Jade spent hours getting ready, borrowing a dress from Sierra, practicing how to hold herself like she belonged in rooms full of wealth. When they arrived at the gala, Dominic kept her close to his side, his hand a constant warm presence on her lower back. But within an hour, Jade found herself cornered by a group of women dripping in diamonds and disdain. They asked pointed questions about her background, her education, what exactly she brought to a relationship with Dominic Blake besides her looks. Jade felt herself shrinking under their scrutiny, felt the old insecurities rising like bile in her throat. She opened her mouth to excuse herself, to run to the bathroom and maybe never come back, when Dominic's mother appeared. Catherine Blake was a tall woman with perfect posture and eyes like chips of ice. She looked at Jade with barely concealed contempt. "Miss Harper," Catherine said, her voice carrying across the small group. "I wonder if we might have a word in private." Jade followed her to a quiet corner, her heart hammering. Catherine turned to face her with a look that could freeze fire. "I have tried to be patient," Catherine began. "I hoped this infatuation would run its course naturally. But it has become clear that you do not understand the damage you are doing." Jade forced herself to meet the older woman's eyes. "With all due respect, Mrs. Blake, I love your son. I am not trying to damage anything." "Love," Catherine scoffed. "You barely know him. What you love is his money, his status, the life he can provide. And eventually, when the novelty wears off, you will realize you do not belong in this world. You will leave, and my son will be devastated. So I am asking you, as his mother, to end this now before it goes any further." The words hit like physical blows. Part of Jade wanted to agree, wanted to admit that Catherine was right, that she was out of her depth. But then she thought about the past 3 months, about late-night conversations and lazy Sunday mornings, about the way Dominic looked at her like she hung the stars, about how he held her when she cried and laughed at her terrible jokes and believed in her dreams even when she did not believe in herself. Jade straightened her spine, finding strength she did not know she possessed. "You are right about one thing," she said quietly but firmly. "I do not belong in this world. I never will. The money and the status and the games people play here, that is not who I am. But I belong with your son. I belong in his life because I see him, not his bank account or his company or his last name. I see the man who works himself to exhaustion because he cares too much. I see the person who is kind when no one is watching. And he sees me the same way." Catherine's expression did not change. "Pretty words, but they do not pay bills or maintain empires." "No," Jade agreed. "But they build something worth having. Your son has been alone his entire life surrounded by people. I would rather live in a trailer with someone who loves me than in a mansion with someone who sees me as a business transaction. Dominic deserves that too, even if you do not think so." Before Catherine could respond, Dominic appeared at Jade's side. His expression was calm but his eyes blazed with protective fury. "Mother," he said coldly. "I believe you have said enough." Catherine's mask slipped for just a moment, showing genuine surprise. "You heard." "Every word," Dominic confirmed. His arm wrapped around Jade's waist, pulling her close. "And I think it is time we established some boundaries. Jade is not leaving. She is not a phase or a mistake. She is the woman I love, and if you cannot respect that, then you are not welcome in my life." The silence that followed felt electric. Catherine looked between them, her composure finally cracking. "Dominic, you cannot be serious. Think about what you are throwing away." "I am not throwing anything away," Dominic said. I am choosing something real over something empty. I am choosing happiness over duty. And if that costs me your approval, then I never had it to begin with." He turned to Jade, his expression softening. "Are you ready to leave?" Jade nodded, overwhelmed by the way he stood up for her without hesitation. They walked out of the gala together, leaving behind the whispers and the judgment and the world that wanted to keep them apart. In the car, Jade finally let herself breathe. "I am sorry," she whispered. "I know that was hard." Dominic pulled her across the seat until she was tucked against his side. "Do not apologize for being the best thing in my life." His lips pressed to her temple. "I meant what I said in there. You are worth everything." Over the following months, things did not become easier, but they became manageable. Some people in Dominic's world never accepted Jade, but others surprised her with their kindness. His business continued to thrive, proof that his relationship did not weaken him but made him sharper, more focused, more human. Jade graduated with her degree and started showing her artwork in small galleries, building a career on her own terms. A year after that first kiss, Dominic took Jade back to the same hotel where they met. He led her onto